One of the largest icebergs in history has just broken off from an ice shelf in Antarctica.
Antarctica is falling apart, and what is coming out of the ice is changing every known fact about the planet. In January 2025, a chunk of ice the size of Chicago snapped off the George VI ice shelf and drifted into the open sea. But here is the catch. Scientists did not just see a big iceberg. The break showed a hidden world that has been dark for thousands of years. Strange life forms are moving around down there, and national powers like China are suddenly in a massive rush to drill deeper.
Scientists fear the ice shelf itself might break up and add to a rise in global sea levels.
The truth is much more unsettling than simple melting ice. Breaking the shell. Instead of a dead, frozen desert, the seafloor was crawling with life. This included giant sea spiders that are a foot wide and octopuses that look like they are made of glass. There are sponges and strange corals that have survived in total darkness for longer than modern humans have existed. It is not that simple, though. This ecosystem should not have enough food to survive. Yet, it is thriving. This discovery has sent shockwaves through the scientific world because it proves that there is a massive, secret world living right under the surface. The George VI ice shelf has always been a point of stress for the continent. For years, experts watched the ice grow thin and the cracks grow wide. They knew something was going to give, but nobody expected the scale of this break. When the ice finally snapped, the sound was likely loud enough to be heard for miles. The sheer weight of the ice hitting the water created a massive surge. As the snow settled, the blue water revealed a dark abyss. This hidden seabed is untouched. No human has ever fished here and no boat has ever passed over it. It is a time capsule from an era before the Industrial Revolution. The creatures down there have adapted to extreme pressure and temperatures that would eliminate a normal fish in seconds. Their blood often contains natural antifreeze, and their movements are slow and purposeful. Some of these sea spiders are so large because the water is so cold. It allows them to take in more oxygen and grow to sizes that would be impossible in the tropics. But here is the catch. The sudden exposure to the sun and the warmer surface water is a death sentence for some of these species. They have lived in a perfect, frozen balance for so long that any change is a disaster. Scientists are scrambling to document every square inch of this new territory before it changes forever. They are finding worm-like creatures that burrow into the silt and potential new species of fish that do not have eyes because they never needed them. The strange part is that this calving event is just the beginning. As the planet gets warmer, these massive breaks are happening more often. Every time a piece of the shell falls off, a little bit more of the planet's hidden face appears. And it is not just the Western world that is looking. Satellite images show that Chinese icebreakers were already in the area, almost as if they were waiting for the ice to open up. Antarctica is the only place on Earth that no single country owns, but that does not mean there is no fight over it. There are treaties in place that say the land is for science only, but when a hidden world full of unknown biological resources is found, those treaties start to look very flimsy. The race is on to claim the knowledge and the power that comes with these discoveries. Everyone is obsessed with what is under the ice. And the George VI calving event gave them exactly what they wanted: a doorway into the deep. The footage from the seafloor gets weirder the more it is studied. Some of the organisms do not match anything in current databases. They move in ways that seem alien, and their bodies are built for a world of silence and crushing weight. This is hands down the most significant find in polar biology in the last 50 years. But, as the scientists celebrate, military leaders are looking at the maps. They see new shipping lanes and new places to hide things where no one can find them. Antarctica is a strange place, and it is getting stranger by the day. The ocean floor is now wide open, and the things moving in the shadows are starting to come into the light. Some researchers are even suggesting that the calving was triggered by something under the ice, rather than just the weather. They point to unusual seismic readings that happened just minutes before the break. Was it a natural shift, or did someone set off a device to clear the ice? In a place where secrets are buried 3 miles deep, anything is possible. And get this. The seabed was not just covered in animals. There were strange, smooth rocks that did not look like they belonged there. Some people are saying they look like the remains of ancient structures. While the scientists call them natural formations, the level of intrigue is extreme. If Antarctica was once green and warm, who is to say what was left behind when the big freeze started? This is a giant puzzle, and most of the pieces are still hidden. The deeper the research goes, the more clear it becomes that the ice is not just a lid. It is a shield. It has been protecting the world from what is down there, or maybe it has been keeping what is down there trapped. As the Chicago-sized iceberg floats away, the shield is getting thinner. Everyone is holding their breath to see what pops up next. Hands down, the world's eyes are locked on the George VI shelf, and for good reason. The things found under the ice are so weird that people are asking if they were ever meant to be found. Something massive is moving under the shelf, and it is not a normal fish. A massive secret lies beneath the crack, waiting for the world to notice. Searching the abyss. While the rest of the world is busy arguing about politics, China has been quietly building an empire in the coldest place on Earth. They now have 5 major research stations in Antarctica: Great Wall, Zhongshan, Kunlun, Taishan, and the brand new Qinling Station. This newest one is a masterpiece of engineering, built to withstand winds that can blow at 200 miles per hour and temperatures that drop to 80 degrees below zero. But people are not just impressed by the buildings. There is deep worry about what is happening inside them. China's annual expeditions are huge. They send icebreakers like the Zhuilong and the Zhuilong 2, carrying hundreds of scientists, engineers, and heavy machinery. They are not just counting penguins, they are drilling. They are going deep into subglacial lakes, bodies of water that have been trapped under 2 miles of ice for millions of years. The most famous one is Lake Vostok, which the Russians drilled into years ago, but China is targeting newer, less explored lakes. They want to know what kind of microbes and life forms are living in that ancient water. In late 2025, China launched its 42nd expedition with a goal that sounds like a movie plot. They are heading to Qilin Subglacial Lake, which is buried under more than 11,800 feet of ice. That is more than 2 miles of solid frozen water. They are using special hot water drills to reach the water without letting any surface air or bacteria touch it. They say they want to find the history of the Earth. But here is the deal. Accessing that lake gives them control over a piece of the world that has been isolated for ages. But here is the catch. Scientific drilling is one thing, but the scale of their operations suggests something else. Some experts believe they are looking for mineral wealth, like gold, oil, and rare earth metals. Antarctica is thought to have massive deposits of these things, but the Antarctic Treaty bans mining. However, that treaty is up for review in 2048. China is playing the long game. They are setting up the infrastructure now so that when the rules change, they are already the kings of the continent. The strange part is the secrecy. Other nations have tried to keep up, but they have faced massive hurdles. There have been reports of failed expeditions, equipment failures, and even mysterious accidents that are never fully explained. Some explorers have come back with stories that sound like they belong in a sci-fi movie. They talk about seeing unexplainable lights under the ice at night, glowing shapes that move with purpose. Others have reported eerie, low-frequency sounds that vibrate through the floor of their tents, sounds that do not match any known geological activity. There is a story from a former researcher who claimed that during a deep-core drilling mission, the drill hit a hollow pocket. When they lowered a camera down, they did not see rock or water. They saw a structured space that looked almost metallic. The report was buried, and the researcher was sent home the next day. Now, basic logic says that could just be a tall tale. But when billions of dollars are poured into these stations, it is natural to wonder what they are actually finding. China's Qinling Station is located on Inexpressible Island. The name alone is enough to give someone chills. It is a strategic location that allows them to monitor satellite communications and potentially track vessels in the Southern Ocean. But the official word is always science. They say they are studying climate change and the history of the Earth's atmosphere. And while that is true, it is not the whole story. A massive fortified station with high-end surveillance tech is not needed just to measure snowfall. The race is getting heated. The United States, Russia, and Australia are all watching China's every move. There is a sense of urgency that was not there 10 years ago. It is like everyone knows a secret, but no one wants to be the first to say it out loud. The ice is melting, and as it disappears, the land underneath is becoming the most valuable real estate on the planet. But it is a dangerous place to work. The isolation is total. If something goes wrong in the middle of the Antarctic winter, no one is coming to save anyone. This environment is so harsh that it changes people. Scientists spend months in total darkness, seeing nothing but white snow and black sky. It is the perfect place to hide a project that is not meant for the rest of the world to see. Whether it is advanced weapons testing, secret surveillance, or the search for ancient technology, Antarctica provides the perfect cover. The ice hides everything. But as the George VI ice shelf showed, the ice is not going to stay forever. And get this, there is a theory that China is building more than just stations. Some military analysts think there are underground hangars and silos being carved into the frozen rock. If a country had a base in Antarctica, it could launch satellites, or other things, without anyone seeing them on traditional radar. The strange part is that because the continent is so big, a city could be hidden there, and no one would know. What most people do not realize is that the science might just be a front for the most important military base in human history. Basically, the world is looking at a new Cold War, but this one is literally freezing. The stakes are huge. If one country finds a way to use the subglacial lakes for energy, or finds a cache of rare materials, the global balance of power will shift overnight. Hands down, China is leading the pack right now, and they are not showing any signs of slowing down. So here is the deal. The world either watches them take over the frozen south, or others start digging too. The race for the ice is on, and the winner gets to decide the future of the world. Deep drilling may uncover something that was never meant to be disturbed. The Deep South Freak Show. The creatures that live in the Antarctic waters are the stuff of nightmares, and the latest discoveries are only making things weirder. When the ice shelf broke away in 2025, the cameras revealed a world of polar gigantism. In most of the world, sea spiders are tiny, almost invisible. In Antarctica, they grow to the size of a dinner plate. They have long, spindly legs and bodies so thin that their organs actually live inside their legs. They do not have lungs. They breathe through holes in their shells. But it is not just the spiders. There are giant isopods that look like massive underwater cockroaches. They crawl along the seabed, scavenging for anything that falls from above. Then you have the glass sponges. These things are basically living skeletons made of silica. They can live for 10,000 years, sitting silently in the dark, filtering the water. They are like ghosts of the ocean, and they cover the seafloor in some of the newly exposed areas. In August 2025, scientists found something truly creepy: a predatory deathball sponge. Unlike most sponges that just sit there and filter water, this one is covered in tiny hooks. It grabs passing creatures and slowly dissolves them. It is a carnivorous monster living 11,800 feet deep. They also found zombie worms that have no mouth or stomach. They use special bacteria to eat the bones of dead whales. What most people do not realize is that these organisms are extremophiles. They thrive in conditions that should be impossible for life. The water is often below the freezing point of fresh water, kept liquid only by the salt and the intense pressure. There are microbes living miles beneath the ice sheet in subglacial lakes that have not seen oxygen or sunlight in 15 million years. They eat chemicals from the rocks to stay alive. This is the closest thing to alien life on Earth. The strange part is how these discoveries are linked to conspiracy theories. For years, some people have claimed that Antarctica is not a continent at all, but a giant ice wall that surrounds a flat Earth. They point to the no-fly zones and the heavy military presence as proof that something is being hidden. While science says the Earth is a globe, the sheer amount of secrecy around Antarctica makes it easy for these theories to grow. When people see giant, unexplainable creatures and secret Chinese drilling rigs, they start to wonder if the ice wall is hiding something even bigger. There are also reports of Antarctic Godzilla, or the Ningen. These are stories of massive, white, humanoid creatures seen in the water by Japanese fishing crews. They are said to be over 90 feet long with human-like hands and faces. Most scientists dismiss these as misidentified whales or icebergs, but the stories persist. In a place where spiders grow as big as basketballs, a 90-foot humanoid does not seem quite as impossible as it once did. But here is the catch. The deeper the search goes, the more things are found that look like they were made, not born. Some explorers have found perfectly spherical metallic objects embedded in the ice, millions of years old. And get this, when someone tries to cut them out, the metal is harder than anything on the surface. Are these ancient alien probes? Or something even older? What most people do not realize is that the monsters might be the least of the worries. The unexplainable events do not stop with the animals. Scientists have recorded the hum, a low, constant sound that seems to come from deep within the ice. Some say it is just the movement of the glaciers, but others find it too rhythmic to be natural. Then there are the bloodfalls, a waterfall that runs bright red. It looks like the glacier is bleeding, but it is actually just ancient, iron-rich salt water that has been trapped for 2 million years. When it finally hits the air, it rusts instantly, turning the ice a deep crimson. Basically, Antarctica is a laboratory for the strange. Every time anyone thinks they have a handle on what lives there, something new is found that breaks the rules. The ecosystem found under the George 6/6 ice shelf is a perfect example. It is a community of life that was never supposed to exist. Yet there it is, thriving in the cold. It makes anyone wonder what else is hiding in the deeper parts of the continent, in places where the ice is 3 miles thick. Hands down, the creepiest part is the idea of shadow biosystems. Some scientists think there is a second tree of life down there, life forms that do not use DNA. If that is true, those are not just new species. That is a completely different way of being alive. The strange part is that some of these things might have already been brought back to labs without anyone knowing it. So here is the deal. The monsters in the dark might already be close by. The frozen south holds answer to questions that have not even been thought of yet. But those answers might be terrifying. A world is being uncovered that was never meant to be seen by human eyes. And once it is seen, it cannot be unseen. The deeper the digging goes, the more the world underneath looks like a nightmare. Ancient life is stirring in the depths, and it may not be friendly. Staying alive down south. To understand how strange Antarctica is, one must look at what it takes to survive there. This is a place where spit can freeze before it hits the ground. It is the highest, driest, windiest, and coldest continent on Earth. It is a desert, even though it is covered in ice, because it almost never rains or snows. The snow seen there is just old ice being blown around by the wind. Dealing with this environment requires a level of toughness that most people cannot imagine. The logistics of a scientific expedition are a nightmare. Everything needed, food, fuel, medicine, has to be flown in or brought by ship during the short summer window. Once the winter sets in, everyone is on their own. For 6 months, the sun does not rise. It is total darkness, and the temperatures can drop to 120 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. At that level of cold, metal becomes brittle and can snap like a dry twig. Plane engines must stay running constantly, or they will never start again. Imagine living in a small metal box with 20 other people while a storm rages outside for 3 weeks. The wind screams so loud it is impossible to hear a thought, and the snow piles up so high the front door must be dug out. This kind of isolation does things to the human mind. Polar madness is a real thing. People start to see things in the whiteout storms. They hear voices in the wind. The brain tries to fill the silence and the emptiness with whatever it can find, and usually, it finds fear. The strange part is the physical danger. The ice is always moving. Glaciers are like slow-motion rivers of ice, and they are full of crevasses, deep cracks that can be hundreds of feet deep. Often, these cracks are covered by a thin layer of snow called a snow bridge. A person can be walking along, and in 1 second, the ground just disappears. If someone falls into a crevasse, the ice can squeeze them as it moves, making it impossible to breathe. Rescue is almost impossible in the deep interior. And get this, the air is so thin and dry that everyone is constantly dehydrated and gasping for breath, even while sitting still. Skin cracks, eyes burn, and every breath feels like swallowing needles. But researchers still flock there. Why? Because the isolation makes it the best place on Earth to study things. It is where NASA sends people to train for life on Mars. If a person can survive a winter at the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station, they can survive almost anywhere in the solar system. But here is the deal. Survival is not just about the weather. There are stories of explorers finding things that do not make sense. One team, in the 1970s, reported finding a field of perfectly preserved frozen bodies that did not look human. They had elongated skulls and extra long fingers. The team was told to leave immediately and never speak of it. When the brutal cold is combined with these kinds of discoveries, it becomes clear that Antarctica is trying to protect its history. The stories of survival are legendary. There is the tale of Douglas Mawson, who lost his companions and his dogs and had to trek 100 miles back to base alone, with the skin peeling off the bottoms of his feet. He survived by sheer will, arriving just as his ship was sailing away. Then there are the modern stories of people who have had to perform surgery on themselves because there was no doctor available and no way to fly out. It is a brutal, unforgiving world. This environment is the ultimate gatekeeper. It keeps the secrets of Antarctica safe. Only the most determined, the most well-funded, and perhaps the most desperate people ever see the interior of the continent. But even with all the satellites and thermal cameras, there are vast areas that have never been stepped on by a human. More is known about the surface of the moon than the land underneath the East Antarctic ice sheet. What most people do not realize is that the void is where the wildest things happen. People report missing time and compasses that spin in circles for no reason. Some say the magnetic field at the pole is a doorway to something else. Hands down, it is the most terrifying place on the planet. Anyone who goes there is not just fighting the cold. They are fighting the unknown. And do not forget the wind. It isn't just a breeze. It is a predator. The katabatic winds are born from the physics of the high plateau, caused by gravity relentlessly pulling cold, dense air down the steep, unforgiving slopes of the ice sheet. When these currents find their rhythm, they can hit speeds of 200 miles per hour, a velocity that dwarfs the fury of a Category 5 hurricane. In those conditions, the air itself becomes a weapon. The snow is no longer soft or crystalline. It acts like high-grit sandpaper, stripping the industrial-grade paint off reinforced buildings and shredding heavy-duty survival tents into ribbons in a matter of seconds. To be caught out there during a gust is to experience life inside a high-speed frozen grinder, where the very atmosphere seeks to erode anything that doesn't belong. But despite the lethal indifference of the environment, the race to control the ice continues with a feverish intensity. Every year, more stations are bolted into the permafrost, and more people arrive, driven by a hunger that outweighs their common sense. They are all looking for something hidden beneath the miles of white. For some, it is the untapped potential of subglacial lakes, vibrant ecosystems, or new energy sources trapped for millennia. For others, it is the pursuit of a piece of history that, by all rights, should have stayed buried in the deep cold. To these explorers, the staggering risk is merely a necessary price for the ultimate reward. Yet, the continent remains a silent, patient observer. It has a haunting way of reclaiming what it gives. For every breakthrough made and every secret unearthed, the ice demands a toll. It takes a little more back through a failed engine, a lost supply line, or the slow, steady crushing of a dream under the weight of the shifting glaciers. Antarctica is changing faster than anyone can track, and the things coming out of the ice are truly frightening. Is this just a natural cycle, or is an ancient secret being woken up that should have stayed frozen? What is really happening at those secret research stations? Share your thoughts in the comments, like the video, and subscribe for more mysteries.